I did my master's in high performance football with MVP. Now I have a mission, to bring in the culture of European football to the United States.
Do you see a difference in IQ levels between MLS Next, ECNL, high school players?
Players, coaches make a difference in that aspect, You can teach it. I know you can. It's one of our job as coaches is to form human beings.
What is your philosophy of football?
It's smile and play. If you're not happy, you can't perform it anywhere. You need to enjoy the hard work. I teach them to enjoy the hard work. They enjoy the failure, trying to be the best. A friend of mine was traveling to Germany to do it, and he offered me to go with him, actually. And I said, okay, yeah, why not? But I think it was one of the best things that happened to me.
You need feedback, someone to coach you, mentor you, and tell you what you need to improve.
I think, yes. You need to know what you need to improve on, because if not, you're just working without a goal.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Select Generation podcast. Really excited about today's episode. Today we're with Faouzi Chbani, if I pronounced that right. So he's one of the directors at Athletum Academy here in Miami. He's also a technical analyst and a coach. And the podcast has been going well so far as always. If you have topics that you want us to talk about, that you really want to know answers to, that you think we're not really covering, or there's a specific guest that you'd like to see, or maybe you want to see an agent or a coach or a sporting director or a player, shoot me a DM, shoot me a message, and we'll try and help you guys out. But super excited today about the podcast. I think we're going to get international perspective. Also, Faouzi's lived in the US for a long time now, so he understands the youth soccer landscape here. And I think it's perfect for what you guys want to know, questions that you have, perspective that maybe you haven't really thought of before. But without further ado, Faouzi, I appreciate your time today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk to you. So for someone that's listening to this that has no idea who you are, what's your story, what's your background, who are you?
Well, I am originally from Morocco. I started playing at the age of 9. I played in the academy up to 16. Then I had to pursue my college. I went to Russia to study in Russia. And then after finishing whatever I had to do there, I traveled to the States to visit my cousin. And then I met my wife. And then 30 years later, I have 2 kids. One of them is about to graduate in 4 days. And I'm back to soccer, what I love, after semi-retiring at the age of 39. I started coaching recreational football with my kids just to be around them, because at that age I decided I want to retire. So I started being around coaching and the kids in general. And I thought that it's a really fulfilling thing for me in my spiritual journey. So I started helping the kids in general, and finding what makes them better as a kids, not necessarily only in the game, because the emotional part of the game, some kids don't adapt well all the time. So it was my job as a non-professional coach to be there for them, And I think it created something in me that I wanted to pursue this career, Little by little, I started getting my licenses and then pursuing some extra courses on the side. Then I went to Europe, and that was the changing moment for me when I went to Germany to get my UFAB license. I think that experience really gave me a message to translate to the US soccer. It's almost now I have a mission, to bring in the culture of European football to the United States. And I think it's mainly for me to help the kids reach their dreams, because I know most of them probably are not going to become soccer players or professional soccer players, but I'm going to help them reach their dreams, whatever they are. So sometimes I try to implement values in them, that will help them in their careers in general, like hard work, teamwork, honesty, compassion. All those values, I think they translate well to life. So I think I find that platform of soccer, to help them.
So what's your role at Athletum? Are you a coach? You a director? What do you do on a day-to-day?
I am a head coach of 2 teams.
Okay, and what age groups are they?
It's a U15 and U16 teenagers. It's hard stuff.
Yeah.
They are all over the place in every term in every aspect, which is challenging for me as a coach, but that's my challenge, you know. And I try to help them to grow up, because I think it's really important to put coach with my experience and my age in that age of teenage.
So what are the things that they're struggling with? Is it school? Is it like just relationships? Is it football? Like,
well, I think it's all of that. Like sometimes I have to talk to them that they have to get better at their grades in school, same as the college guy will tell them. And sometimes I have to fix relationships within the team, and sometimes I have to fix their relationship with their parents. So they talk to me as a friend, as a coach, and sometimes as a guy that will lead them to solutions. And not necessarily they have to come from me, but I just let them discover it, you know what I'm saying? So because they know more about what they need. You just almost like I drill on the question with them more than drilling on the answer. So that's my job.
So you talked about you grew up in Morocco. What was your football experience when you were growing up? Was it you wanted to be a pro footballer? Did you want to be a coach eventually? Did you not really know what you wanted to do? How was your experience with football growing up?
You know, the culture of the Moroccan football is about enjoying the moment and that relationship that you have with the friends that play with you, you know? So it's... I don't think I thought about it too deeply when I was young. I had ambitions, of course, but mainly I was focusing on my school, but I had to play soccer because I loved it. So it's that unknown future that you have to go with it, you know what I'm saying? So without realizing what you really want to do.
Yeah. So a lot of people listening to this will be like, wow, he grew up in Morocco playing, but they probably have no idea the level in Morocco. Obviously, you see like Morocco getting to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. You see Morocco like Ziyech, Hakimi, you see these players. But other than that, like, is it a good... You don't really hear about Moroccan teams. So for someone like understanding the level in Morocco, how would you kind of describe like the Moroccan football pyramid, the level?
Well, I think if I am not mistaken, statistically, it's rated like probably 20th or 21st in the world in terms of the leagues. But certainly the infrastructure of the academies is, when I was there, was not well developed. So it's almost like every coach is doing his thing, you know what I'm saying? But it's just at the age appropriate. There is no methodology to teach the kids. There is no like almost like plan. There is no plan in that moment in the 80s, you know. So I think now you're starting to see that they are paying more attention to the infrastructure of the clubs, and I think our people that are taking care of this thing are understanding that after the World, there was a time before the World Cup and time after the World Cup. So now you see everything is football in Morocco. It's impressive, and I think they are doing a great job.
So then you went from Morocco to Russia?
Yes.
And then when you went to Russia, you were just studying, or you were coaching too?
I was not just studying.
Just studying?
Yes.
So then you took
I was too young.
So you took some time away from football?
Yes, actually. When I came back to the States, I started in real estate. So it took away all my connection with football.
How was being away from football? Did you miss it? Did you enjoy being away?
I don't think you enjoy being away. You just don't think about it. And then at the same time, you know, once in a while we pick up a game here and there, and then you play some indoor soccer and stuff like that, just to give that pleasure to yourself. But I never thought that I would be back to it. Only after my kids have grown to the age that they can play, and then I got involved and get back to it.
It's interesting because I haven't really talked about this previously, but like I really struggled after university because I stopped playing and I really missed football, and that's part of the reason why we started Select Generation, because like probably the same as you for me, like I grew up playing football, but I wasn't really thinking about being a pro. I wasn't thinking about coaching. I just played because that's what you do in England. You play with your friends and everything. And then I was playing. I went to the US to go and on a scholarship to play. And then after university, I went on some trials. I didn't make it as a pro. And then I had no football. Like you're used to at the NCAA Division 1, Division 2 level training every day. All your teammates are crazy about football. You have guys on full rides. You have guys that are sacrificing a lot to be there. The coaches you're doing like 45 minutes of video a day. You're you feel like a pro, or at least I did, and then you go from that, graduate to nothing is a difficult period. Like in my life where I really struggled. So for you being away from football, what was the?
I think mainly the fact that I didn't become a professional made me be okay with it.
Okay.
You know, like I didn't give up on anything because I just didn't pursue it all the way. So I was okay with it. Only when I had my kids, then I started coaching them in a recreational form. I said, no, this is really what I want to do.
So you had a big shift then, because you went from nothing to then going and coaching your kids to then going and getting the UEFA license to now being like a football coach.
Yes.
So like, what made you be like, I want to take football seriously and I want to be a coach?
I think it's mostly my personality is when I want to do something, I want to do it good.
Okay.
And I really want to help kids. And the love that the kids give me because they know that I care, I think it fulfills some part of my heart that I think I needed that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when I was young, the coaches were not, I think, the most developed coaches, not in the social aspect, not even the emotive aspect.
They were just there.
Yes, they were just there and they make a run and then play soccer and that's it. But here I'm trying to guide the kids because I think it's one of our job as coaches is to form human beings. And it doesn't matter if you're not real good at soccer. You're still there and I have to give you something. You have to learn from me something. So I take it in that personal.
So talk to us about when you went to do your UEFA license. What was the process before that? Were you coaching and you were like, I wanted to do this properly, I want to do a good job, I need that license? Or was that someone told you to get that license? Or before you got the license, what was the decision to get the license?
Well, I did my the basic licenses here, the 11B, 11, 7B, all that. And then I went to the D license here, and then I went to the C license. And then a friend of mine was traveling to Germany to do it, and they said, and he offered me to go with him, actually. And they said, okay, yeah, why not? But I think it was one of the best things that happened to me.
Why?
I think when you go and you see the infrastructure of an academy over there where we were, it's actually really interesting to see how even the kids are a little bit different than the kids over here. The way they perceive instructions, the way they take it serious, you know, because as you know, over there is not pay to play. So here is pay to play. So it's a little bit different, you know. And in that aspect, I think it was like an eye-opening for me, you know, because I only coached in the States before, and then when you go over there and you coach those kids, and you see that it's like, when you talk, they are like 110% focused on your eyes, what you want to give them. Here we still have a little bit of hard time to get there, you know, because of the pay to play. But I think now with the MLS opening up more doors to more clubs, as you know, there are now MLS 2 and MLS Next, I think it's becoming more only for the kids that really wanna take instructions and, you know, want to learn and stuff like that. You're going to divide those kids in certain way, you know. Yeah. You can perceive it from them.
So you had the UEFA B experience. I want to talk about the license because there's probably a parent that's listening to this that's thinking, wow, Faouzi has a UEFA B license. My kid's son doesn't have a UEFA B license. What makes your sessions different to his sessions? So for the UEFA B license, what do you learn? Like, how did you change as a coach? What did you get out of that license?
Well, I think sometimes you have knowledge and you don't know how to structure it. So the UEFA B give you that sort of structure, how to structure your sessions in terms of structure, right? Not the content, but the structure of the session. Plus, I think I learned how to solve the arising problems in the sessions. Because, you know, usually you come and find, okay, in a club, today this field is bad, so we have to go to the other field, and you don't have that much space. And and all those aspects that are little day-to-day problems, I think I become more efficient at solving them. And I think I learned that in Germany. The coach is almost like a problem solver in the session, and then when you see that there is you planned something for the session and then you don't have enough numbers, so now you have to adapt the new session to the numbers that you get, because today is Mother's Day and not everyone comes, and it's a pattern of solving, assessing, and again, it's a nice way to approach coaching, I think, because you always assess what you prepared, and you see if it's giving results and if the kids are learning. And if not, you have to do something, or I would say make it harder or make it easier, so you can reach what you want, your goal.
So if my kid has a coach that doesn't have any licenses, he just coaches without a UEFA license, he's just a coach, he just wanted to be a coach, what am I missing out on?
Well, I can't generalize my answer, because, some people know and they are way too talented, more than me, without any licenses. But I think it just gives you a structure, how to have an idea what you want to teach and how you approach it, if you know what I mean. Like it's just finding that
The structure of the session.
That will get the kids to learn something. Because that's the idea.
So what do you think makes a good session? When you're structuring your sessions, when you're planning your sessions, other than having the plan, what makes a good session?
For me, first thing is fun. For the kids, like, depends about the age, It has to be fun. It has to be dynamic, depending about what you want to teach, the principles or sub-principles, the conditional aspect of it, the cognitive aspect, the emotional aspect, do you want to overload them? How much load you want to give them in the physical aspect too? It's all those things are related, and it just, I think the good coach has to be a problem solver and has to have a little bit of knowledge. I don't say much, depending about the age that you teach, but you have to have a little bit of knowledge of what you want to teach. And then on top of that, you have to be able to relate to the subject and understand what you want to see, because you have to capture that image, what you want to see from the kids that you're teaching. And once you do that, I think you'll become.
So as a coach, I'm always interested to learn, like, because I was never a coach, but I was a player. So from playing, I was always like wondering about the coach, like, why is he doing this session, or that drill was really good, why haven't we done that for a while? And now looking back, it was probably designed to, like, for specific games, like for opponents. You change your session for opponents. Do you change your session based on? Okay, so let's say you start the preseason and you're doing some attacking, you're doing some defending, you're doing some tactical work, but then at the start of the season you're scoring loads of goals, but you can't keep a clean sheet, or you're keeping loads of clean sheets, but you're tying 0-0, you're losing 1-0, you can't score. Is there a moment where you reflect after games and think, okay, next week we need to do this? Or is there a period where you pull in the captain and you say, guys, what do you want to understand? Like, based on how, what I'm trying to ask you is, how do your results reflect the changes in your sessions?
Well, I don't think that the results necessarily reflect on my session, but the analysis of the game, the post-game analysis, it's what translates. Because sometimes the other team will penetrate you many times through the flanks, but they can't score. So the result is not there, but still they penetrated. So it's actually that post-game analysis that I have after every game, and a little bit of post-game talk with the kids. I want their feedback all the time, because sometimes they will say something that I couldn't even pay attention to. So I give them that little bit of leadership too in that aspect, because that will help them grow as leaders too. Get them involved in the project itself, and then I will see what didn't work, and I try to give them the next week a little bit of that, like what was missing and how can we make it better, or what didn't work. Like you said, why we couldn't score and why we got scored on. So all those things, it's part of the process: assessing, analyzing, training, reassessing again after the game.
At the age of 15, 16, how do you listen to the good feedback and block out the noise? Because, like, for example, if I'm thinking about myself at 15, 16, there would have been a lot of times where we lost and I would have been stupid and said the wrong thing, and I wouldn't have understood the coach's perspective, and I would have said, oh, we need to change to a 3-5-2. And obviously that was how I felt in the moment, but I'm 15, I don't know what I'm saying. So for a player that's 15, 16 giving you feedback about what you need to change or what they think, how do you know if that feedback is accurate or if they're immature and they don't know what they're talking about?
Well, I just respect it for what it is, as an opinion. I already have a plan in mind, you know. I try to take the leadership in those tactical aspects, but I give them the right to be opinionated, which is good for their leadership growth, you know. Like they need to feel that they have the say in something that, you know, as a coach, you want to make them believe in your idea. And your idea is to sell them that you're doing good for them. And part of it is just letting them vent. Sometimes, like you said, you want to play 3-5-2. I had last game, I was playing against an academy, and we were doing fairly okay in the first quarter, and somebody told me, we need to change to 4-4-2. And they said, okay, I respect that, but I think if we stick, but this is the little things that I want to change. So most likely that in that game specifically, it was not the general tactic of the team that was not working. It was some individual tactics, like my false nine was not doing some movement that I wanted him to do. And then after we corrected that, and the game worked out well for us.
Do you have an assistant coach or are you just alone?
No, I'm alone.
Okay, so
sometimes we have, but not all the time.
When you're dealing with a losing streak, do you like how do you deal with that as a coach? Because I listen to a lot of football podcasts myself. I mean, they're like coaching Premier League, and they always talk about how they get very lonely and they blame themselves and they feel like it's completely their fault if they could have changed this, if they could have done this. When you're dealing with a losing streak as a coach, how do you deal with it?
I tell you the truth, sometimes my philosophy personally is I don't let my team lose 3 games on a row.
How?
If I have to play 5-4-1, I will do it. Because once you lose more than 3 games, even the kids start like doubting the process itself. Yeah. And we don't want to get there because you want them to believe in you as a leader. So you have to step in sometimes and do some drastic changes just to keep that from happening, because you're protecting them from failure. This is how I look at it. I never predispose my kids to failure, complete failure. I always give them even the tactical advantage over the other kids, because I don't want them to step into that negative zone in their minds, you know. You want to keep him positive because that's how you're going to perceive your instructions and everything. You know, happiness brings happiness. And you don't want to be losing all the time, because then even, you know, in America is the parents too are involved. Like you're going to have like a lot of noise, and that noise translates through the kids to the process, because they hear the parents, no, we're not doing it. You know. And you want to keep everything rolling on a positive note. You can lose once in a while. It's okay for me. And you can lose even one time and win and draw. And you have to be competitive, not really winning. But when the parents understand the process, I think they start thinking more of how can I make my kid better, not how can I win.
Yeah, it's interesting that the parent conversation, because I'm not a coach, but I deal with a lot of the parents because they're talking to me about, Sam, what do you think the level of my son is, or what should he be improving? And I mean, I always tell the parents like what it is, but dealing with, I think, parents is they need to see like the other side of it. They need to see like the long picture, because I feel like a lot of the parents that we talk to, they think about like, last week my son had a really bad session and he's not doing good, and I'm like, yeah, but imagine if he had a 10 out of 10 session every week. Like, you wouldn't see the bad side and you wouldn't see when he's improving and developing and getting better. Or if he has a 10 out of 10 session and then you're like thinking he's going to make it to Clemson or Duke or Wake Forest. It's like, yeah, but he's not like that every week. He's not consistent. He needs to be disciplined and consistent and have that performance all the time. So like, I think for me, when I'm dealing with parents, it's like, listen, the feedback that you're giving me now about your son, like, that's great. Like, I'm so happy. He's doing a good job the last week. That's fine. But like, this is a long season and this is a long process, and it happens over years. Like Division 1 coaches, Division 2 coaches will be monitoring kids for like 5 years before they give them an offer, you know? And pro coaches, obviously, they need to have a big resume over years of experience to show that they can play at that level consistently. So when a parent is coming to you, Faouzi, and they're saying about the session or the week, or they didn't agree with last week's game, or they think, oh, my son should have played more, what's kind of your feedback, or how do you deal with parents?
Again, it all starts with the honesty, I think. You know, I tell them in the beginning of the year, I am here to make your kids learn how to adapt to every situation. And one of them is losing, and one of them is not playing good. And the other part is my feedback. Sometimes it's going to be positive, sometimes it's going to be negative. But negative in the constructive way. Like, I'm going to tell you, okay, parent, when you approach me, if you ask me why he didn't play, I will tell you why he didn't play honestly. Like, there is no hiding anything, you know. But I focus more on what can we do to better your son, because this is what I am here for. Not really to win the game, not for him to play a little bit more, because if I see that, let's say, if I have a small kid that is very talented, but I'm going to put him in a matchup with the big kids that don't know how to break from the other team, and my kid loves to be on the ball, I am setting up that little kid for a crash, because the other one comes and he doesn't, I see him, he comes against my big boy and he doesn't even coordinate himself to break, so he always clashes. Why will I put your son there? It's just going to be an accident waiting to happen. So I try to avoid those negative things that can happen in the game, but I can probably choose another position that he will play a little bit less time, but he will be on the ball more in a safe environment. So I try to do that. Or I will create a tactics for the team that I can help him play in a different position, or like instead of me like playing a big 9 and my 9 is hurt. So I take him out and play that little kid as a false 9. So he's away from the center backs. He has a little bit of time on the ball, time and space, so he can play a little bit faster. And the feedback to the parents, I think it has to start in the beginning of the year. They have to know that you really care about their kids. And once they know that, they trust the process. I always tell them, I show them what I have written on their kids in the assessment in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and this is what he needs to work on. And I'm trying to give him the opportunity to work on it in the sessions of the trainings sessions, and then in the game to be able to translate to a game.
I think I totally agree with what you just said. I think that's awesome. And I wanted to ask, like, for a parent that's listening to this, that's thinking that maybe I'm too involved in my kid's football, maybe I'm asking him too much. Because I remember, like, on the way back from games, my dad would always sit next to me, and he would never say anything positive to me. He would always, well, no, that's a lie. He said a lot of positive things, but a lot of the times he would find, like, you should have done this, or I don't know why you don't run that way, or I don't know why you get stuck in. And I remember, like, a few times I'll be like, Dad, like, you never have anything nice to say. Like, you're always negative, you're always saying this. But I think that was a good relationship, because he was always wanting the best for me, you know? He was always wanting the most for me. And it was like, I think I was a successful footballer, so I appreciate that, and I love that. But for a lot of players and a lot of I talk to a lot of players, and I feel like they're, like, youth soccer players in the US, I feel like they're frustrated because a lot of the parents, like, are kind of really hard on them. And I feel like stereotypically, because, like, I don't know, basketball and football, the parents are used to growing up being like, you got to shoot the most, you got to take the most shots, you got to tackle the hardest, you got to go to the gym the most, and you got to just work hard and be strong and big and, like, get stuck in and fight the most. Whereas soccer, I feel like, in my opinion, it's complete opposite. Like, you need to be calm, collected. Obviously, you need to work hard, you need to tackle, you need to run, you need to go to the gym, yes. But you need to have a good IQ, be smart, and work smart. And I feel like a lot of parents are very involved, and they're very, like, making the decision for the kid. So for a parent listening to this that's trying to figure out, am I too involved with the kid? Do I need to be more involved? Do I need to take a step back? You've been a parent. What did you find successful? What's your advice to parents, how involved they should be in their kids' kind of like soccer development?
I think the parents need to listen more than talk. Because when the kid is frustrated, he knows already what he did wrong and what he did right. So the parent has to be a support outside the field to vent for the kid, first of all, and then just to understand how he can deal with those emotions outside the game. Because that will help him grow in general, how to deal with his emotions and how to be able to correct these mistakes. Because if you analyze good what the kids do, they already know what they did wrong, you know? Like every kid, you'd ask him, he tells you. So the parent doesn't need to point out those things that he already know. I think it's more like lay back, be more calm, let him vent if he wants to vent. If not, just give him positive support.
Encourage.
Yes, positive support, positive reinforcement after the game. Tell him it's okay to fail, because this is my philosophy. For me, it's okay to fail at practices. I specifically do some practices that I set up the kids that they make a lot of mistakes, because I want them to be comfortable with mistakes. That's what will make an elite player.
What is your philosophy of football?
First, it's smile and play. If you're not happy, you can't perform in anywhere, in anything. You have to do something that you love. And I try to be like really tough on them in practice and exaggerate everything, because then the game becomes really easy. And depending about the years that I'm coaching, what age group specifically, I think there is certain things that I change along the way, you know, like me as a personality in front of them has to be a little silly when they're small kids, you know. And when I'm with the U16s, it's different. I have to be a friend and sometimes silly too, you know, and sometimes very tough. So they need all those things, because my philosophy is to enjoy, learn all the time. And for me, it's not about physicality. It's about fast cognitive IQ.
What would you say to someone that disagrees with that thinks you shouldn't enjoy you should enjoy the game, but you should focus on winning versus enjoying?
I think you can't win if you're not enjoying all the time, because you can't perform at 100%. But when you're smiling, you can perform at 120%. Your nervous system is much more relaxed.
And when you say enjoy, you don't mean just like doing keepy ups, rondos, shooting, having fun. You mean being hard, strong.
No. You need to enjoy the hard work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I teach them to enjoy the hard work, enjoy the failure, trying to be the best. This is what I try to implement, because I never think of soccer as enjoying without effort. Effort always have to be there. A hard work, actually, a teamwork, it's always there. So I think in general, most of the groups that I had from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, they are completely different in that aspect. They are hard workers.
What do you do if you have a bad egg, like a player that doesn't believe in the mission, doesn't believe in the culture? How do you fix him? Do you get rid of him? How do you fix that?
I try my best to communicate my ideas to him, what I want from him. And if he can't go at the rate that the other kids are going at, we just move him to another level that what he can do, what he's happy doing, you know, but he doesn't improvise the other growth of the other kids, you know, the growth and the development of the other kids. So he has to, I give him 6 months of adaptation period, because always, you know, teenagers or little kids have some time to adapt, and depending upon personality, some are introverts, some are extroverts. All those things are counted in the process, you know. And if he can't adapt, that we have to remove him to another place where he can be happy doing what he wants, but he doesn't improvise the process, the project.
Okay, good. And then I wanted to touch also on like tactical side of soccer, because obviously you've had experience abroad, you've had your UEFA license, you've seen like how youth academies work overseas and then in the US. And there's obviously this big stereotype. I feel like I talk about it every week, but like youth American soccer players versus European players or from around the world. And I know we talked about it a little bit off camera, but what is the youth? How is an American youth soccer player different to a European player?
I think the American soccer player in the last 20 years, his biggest weapon was his physical abilities. You can see they're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger, But I think the new tactical game that's going in the whole world, you don't see big players all the time. In certain positions, you have to have those big players, like center backs or some nine, But not everywhere. You need high IQ players, soccer IQ players. I think now United States is starting to look at that aspect a little bit more, which almost like weaponizing the physical aspect with IQ. So it becomes even better.
What does IQ mean?
Well, for me, the IQ is how kids solve the soccer situations that they are presented with. So whatever situation you are, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, how you solve them, this is your soccer IQ,
Decision making.
Decision making, yes. That's the cognitive part of soccer. I think it's going to be a big thing,
How do you teach IQ in your sessions? Has a player got it or they haven't got it, or you can coach them their IQ?
No, I think you can coach it, if you choose the right methodology. Like, I did my master's in high performance football with MVP, and I think it gave me the tools, to prepare sessions that have like a high cognitive content in the days that I need a high cognitive content. You know what I'm saying? So I present them with situations that you can manipulate, spaces, constraints, goals, objectives, numbers. All those things, you can manipulate them to create a principle that you want the kids to recognize, or a cue that you want them to see about space, about time, about body orientation, about this, about that, all those things. And once you include that in your sessions, in the long term, you'll see a development of soccer IQ.
Do you see a difference in IQ levels between MLS Next, ECNL, high school players?
Well, definitely there is a big soccer IQ difference between ECNL and school soccer, like high school soccer, I mean. Between ECNL and MLS, players, coaches make a difference in that aspect, like with my U16s, I sent 4 kids to the national teams, 2 for Costa Rican national teams, 1 to Guatemala. Now he's going with them to the tournament in Switzerland, and another one to Canada. And this year we are promoting 5 of my other players to the MLS Next. They were in MLS 2. They will be now in MLS Next. So you can teach it. I know you can. I can see it, I know the difference between a kid that was not taught and is able to learn, So we try to use that in the assessment of the beginning of the year to be able to do the...
So for someone who's listening to this that has no idea how youth soccer is in America, high school is different to MLS Next, and there's ECNL. Is it a pyramid? Is it, because I've had a lot of coaches on, and they're saying there's not a clear pathway. Like the US Federation doesn't have a clear pathway. You don't know what's at the bottom and what's at the top. Stereotypically, MLS Next is at the top, and then you have ECNL, and then you have NPL E64, and then high school would be at the bottom. But from your perspective, in your opinion, do you feel like there's a pyramid? Or how would you explain the youth soccer pyramid in the US?
Well, I think depending about the location, because some places have only ECNL and some places have MLS next. So depending where the clubs are, that's where you're gonna see a different type of pyramid in those places, you know. And I think now with the growth of the USL Championship, it's starting to look even different, you know, and the UPSL. So I think there is a lot of factors now that are making that pyramid even harder to look at straight, you know, how to figure it out. But most likely, the MLS next will snatch all the talent around them. So the ECNL is next in the pyramid.
Do you think when you're helping players, like, are you doing any college stuff yet with them, or have you not really thought about college yet?
We have somebody in the academy that takes care of that, but not me. But I just refer them to them.
So, for example, let's say that you're preparing a player to go to college. How is your gameplay based on, like, going to college? Like, for example, if you go and watch a college game and you see it's really physical and you say there's big, strong guys, do you then tell them they need to go to the gym or be more direct? Or does, like, what's the Athletum pathway? Is it trying to get guys to college, trying to get guys to pro, or just trying to get better in general? Or do you, like, what's kind of the mission of the club?
Well, as of now, we're starting to get involved more with the college opportunities to the kids, which is the best thing. And pro was always there. We have already some kids playing in Italy. So I think the main thing is to give all the tools to the kids and to present them with opportunities to be scouted. And that's what we do best. You know, we have connections all over the place, you know, to be scouted, like, easily. And we are doing a really good job at this in this year, starting this year.
So when you're talking to scouts, or the scouts are saying, "Hey, Faouzi, I need this, or I need this type of player," like, what do they want? Do they want big, strong, fast? Do they want high IQ? Do they want a good highlight video? Do they want someone that's proactive and calls the coach? Like, what do they want?
I think when they approach us in, like, MLS Next Fest or any other tournament that we go to, it's mainly how do you think of these kids, because they want your opinion too, you know,
because you see them every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can be honest with them, you know, like, and he has his project as a scout, and he tells us what he really needs, and I can tell him honestly if he fits or not fit, and we want what's good for the kid. And for you don't want to send the kid just to say yes and then it's a failure for the first month. It doesn't make sense.
Anyone, yeah.
No. So we are honest with the scouts, and we make them see it for what it is, you know, like, we want to give them we want to have a good relationship in the long term too, you know. If you mess up the information, then he's not coming back at you with anything.
No, I know.
So it's a business deal, actually, in general.
Definitely. And then for you, when you're trying to get guys into... What have you seen in the characteristics of the guys that have been sent to the national team? Like, why have they been sent to the national team and the rest of the squad hasn't? What have they got that the others haven't?
Sometimes the opportunity opens for some and not for the others. Hard working, they are all hard workers. Like, literally, you can see the first guy in the practice, he's the most, you know, readiness is there. And the last one to get off. All four of them. And they are really, I would say, they are there to bring up the best of themselves. They push themselves a little bit more.
For someone that's listening to this, that is... I totally agree with you. For someone that's listening to this, that is saying, okay, you've just told me to work really hard, so I'm going to go to the gym twice a day. I'm going to go to the field 3 times a day. I'm going to make sure I eat all the right foods. I'm going to make sure I don't play any video games, go to bed at the right time, and then they get injured, or they get overwhelmed, or they burn out, and they're not consistent. Because I feel like the stereotype in the US is that working hard means going to the gym and doing the biggest bicep curls and the bench press, you know. And I feel like hard work is hard work in terms of, like, going to the gym and working out and that stuff. But I also feel like hard work is being disciplined, being consistent, and being smart with your choices.
I think more
What does
smart
hard work mean? Yeah.
I think smart with your choices and following a good periodization in terms of like the load, the weekly load. You can't overdo yourself. Like I had a kid this weekend that we played away. We traveled, we came back, and then the kid next day went to the gym. Yesterday in the session, he was all tight. I told him what happened. He's like, no, I did some weight. I said, who told you to do weight? He's like, my coach, my private coach. So sometimes, even when we hire professionals, we need to know who we're hiring, and we need to understand that they need to have a little bit of knowledge about the physiology of the and the anatomy of the muscles and all that stuff, even if it's not much, but they have to know a little bit, and how the load affects the growth of the kid and how the load affects the injury prevention and all those things. I think if you're not well educated, I think you should not do it as a coach. You have to really educate yourself. Like I listen to podcasts about personal training, soccer specific, just because I want to help the kids, not necessarily because, and then sometimes even strength and conditioning for soccer specific things is different than for marathon runner. And is different for wrestler, is different for basketball player. So all those strength, conditioning, power, you have to implement them in cohesive way into your periodization, that in the long term you will see results. I think that's what's the problem of the private coaching. You know what I'm saying? So
What do you think about private coaches? If a player's like, hey, Faouzi, I want to get a private coach for soccer, for gym, for mental health?
I think it's good. I encourage all my kids to work on the side if they can, but as long as they hire the right person, you know what I'm saying? Like it's important that nobody overloads
it's not
you.
Just a random.
Yeah, because sometimes I had kids that play school and play in my team, and plus they go to do the gym. Then the gym has to be specific for what we want from it. I can't do hypertrophy in that week.
Yeah, it needs to be like plyos or recovery or mobility.
Exactly, something that matches the week, that the load in general, and it's what it is. What it needs to be paid attention to those details.
Totally agree. Love that. Last question I would have for you is advice for a player that's listening to this that is 15, 16. So probably the advice that you give to your players. They want to take the game to the next level. Might be pro, might be college. They are really focused on soccer, but they're a bit lost. They don't really understand what they're doing. What advice do you give to players 15, 16 on college, pro, how to get better at soccer?
I think you have to have some sort of assessment of all your best attributes and then what's not working well for you. It can be technical, it can be physical, it can be tactical, it can be your energy management, it can be your energy system is not working well, it can be your coordination.
How do I get an assessment?
Well, I think there is some coaches that offer that, or even your own coach that you have,
You need feedback, someone to coach you, mentor you, and tell you what you need to improve.
I think, yes. You need to know what you need to improve on, because if not, you're just working without a goal. You need to have a short-term goal, long-term goal, what I need to do this week, what I need to better at. What I need to get better in 3 months, what I need to get better in 6 months, because that's how we will progress. And then parallel to that, you need to get better in your sleep, nutrition, how to recover, because you want to prepare to become a professional. That's what happened when you're a professional. All those things are there. So start implementing them from 15, 16, and respecting your body, how I call it, respect your body. It will respect you and help you, and you will do good. I think hard workers always get results at the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing, like for me in my life, the biggest thing has been having a strategy and a plan, because once you have a goal and once you have a plan, every day you make decisions and you make the choices based on that goal, right? Because before I didn't really have goals. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing in my life, in soccer, for work. So, like, okay, I'm going to go out for a beer, or I'm going to go and eat that fried chicken sandwich because I don't have a goal.
Exactly.
But now it's like, you want to get fit, you want to make it to the pro game, you want to reach out, you want to go to college. Okay, so you need to have a goal. How are you going to get there? I'm going to email 10 coaches this week. I'm going to go to this camp this summer.
Exactly.
Rather than, I want to play college without a plan. You don't know where to start. You don't know how to figure it out, you know?
And I think even now there is a lot of agencies that help with this aspect. I think it will be good, you know, to get one, you know, just to give you the framework of what's
Required,
needed and required for that, you know, goal that you have.
Yeah.
And I think they will help you along the way. I think it's good.
I think I've said on a podcast, like, I don't think American soccer players need agents, but I think they need like a mentor. So, like, for example, someone in Athletum who is doing the college placement, for example, that guy wants to get Athletum players to college. So ask him as many questions as you can,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like be proactive. That's like, I remember I was college advisor for a club in California before. I swear to God, I shared my email and I got like 3 emails from like 60 players.
We have the same thing. It's very...
Why are they not proactive? Why don't they want to use it?
Because that's what I say. They don't have the goal set. You know, it's in their mind, but it's foggy. You need to assert your goal. Like, do it every day. It's
Be
my
proactive,
goal.
like make decisions. Yeah.
Make those decisions that will take you a step closer to that goal in every way possible. And if you don't, that means you really don't want it. And this is reality, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you only receive 3 emails. We do the same thing. We have 1,800 kids in all the, maybe 4 answers you. And you work with those 4 to help them, but the rest is not there to get help, you know?
Interesting.
They're not ready for it, probably, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, it is a reality of America.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I agree. I think... No, really interesting. Yeah, I remember I was like confused. I was like, and then I go to the training session. I'm like, hey guys, you need some help? Oh, Sam, how do I make a video? I'm like, okay, we can start there. That's great. Like, good. Thank you for asking me that question. But like, okay, text me. Never text me. Never say anything. You know, they
don't follow up.
You know, but that's okay. Those are the ones that are not going to go to college, and the other ones will go to college. So that's how it is.
Whoever follows their dreams has to do something about it.
Absolutely.
You know, proactive.
Faouzi, thank you so much. That was a great conversation.
No, the pleasure is mine, and thank you for inviting me and having me here. And I hope you succeed in your next podcast and invite the right people.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I think like you did before.
I hope so too. Awesome. Thank you so much.